Can you hear me? Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I mean, in this conversation, it's important that we get folks who are not only advocates but users, because um, users understand, they know.
I'm on the health committee of Community Board 9, and we're talking about doing a task force. Like they just have on cannabis, everything about it, like from just to help the community because it's a lot for the community to process. From NYCHA to like what the new regulations are, like it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was letting Francisco know that, been talking to the public advocate's office about working in partnership with the CBs, the clergy people, to have town halls, on a regular basis as this process moves forward. So yeah, because there is a lot, and one meeting doesn't cover it. Even this meeting right now won't cover a lot of what's happening, but it's the first step. So. If you, I don't know if this is appropriate for the board, but if you want, I could share. I don't know how that works if we're live on YouTube, but I could share my screen and like show a little clip about, or wait till the full board is here. But I could share a little clip on like old school media when they were reporting how marijuana was so dangerous. I could put that on in the meantime if you like, but or just also wait till the rest of the board comes. But I think it's a good visual to see how we got to marijuana so bad.
How long is the clip?
It could be as long as you want it because it's from a movie, but like the few minutes that you could even just watch the first few seconds and be like, oh god, But it
Okay.
could be however long you need.
All right.
So Francisco, just so I know, like the framework for today is from an economic development, like just to give people an idea.
Yeah, it's more about kind of like how this would affect business and in our community.
Okay.
But the thing about it is so many aspects of other parts of our community will affect business, from criminal justice to social justice to health and environment. I mean, all of that kind of stuff really commingles. Um, but
Mhm.
we focus here more on business and how it affects our small businesses. Trying to give it another. Paola, what is our number for quorum?
Let me see. Hold on.
I've had two people that I won't be at our meeting today. Um, Nobles and Mariela. So what's the magic number we have to hit?
So 7 is your number. So half of that. So that means you need 4 people.
Okay, got it. Hey guys, so for the attendees, we haven't started the meeting yet. We're waiting on a few members from our committee to join us. So if you don't hear or see anything, that's why. We're just all on mute. Um, we're gonna give it a couple more minutes. If not, we're just gonna start the conversation. Okay, guys, we'll just start the conversation and just for the folks that are like attending, usually when we have these meetings, we need to have a certain amount of community board members, or the business committee members to be here in order to have an official meeting. We haven't reached that yet, but it's 20 minutes in and I don't want to waste any more people's time. So we're gonna get started. Since we have two amazing women here who are very knowledgeable about the cannabis industry from various angles, I kind of want to let them kind of run with the ball and just start a conversation like that. Joel, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, brother. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. So who would like to start first? Miriam, Pilar?
Sure. I'll jump right in. Hi, my name's Miriam Aristifarrar, Miriam Aristifarrar, first generation Dominican, actually born on Dykeman and Sherman. First generation daughter of a bodeguero. And here I am in the hemp and CBD business in New York. I am the founder of Herbas Plant-Based Body Care. It's CBD and plant-based rituals based out of West Harlem, where I live right now. And I also co-chair the Health and Environment Committee for Community Board 9. So glad to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Pilar, give us a little background if you can.
Hola, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Pilar de Jesus, aka Pilar la Problema. I added con la solución, so for translation, Pilar the problem, but I've added with the solution. If I bring the problem, I'm bringing the solution for that problem, hopefully. I'll try my best. Yeah, born and raised in East Harlem, so born and raised at CB11. Still live in the low income Michulama co op that was in my family for 60 years. I've been here 40 years of those 60. Latina, Mexicana, Puerto Riqueña. My father came from Mexico over here when he was 12. You know, raised by my grandmother, Pilar Robles, who was the first Pilar Problema. And, I definitely, if you get to know me, I'm a very fiery person. Miriam knows a little bit about my fire. So I'm an Aries too. But, I'm an aunt, an entrepreneur, an advocate, an upholder. I wear about 1,000 different hats. I'm just a very passionate human that's passionate about healing, passionate about our people and our culture, about cannabis, psilocybin, and other healing plant-based medicines, and just like really working towards and trying my best while I still exist on this planet, to really start working towards ending the harm and working towards healing, when it comes to us, because it's like it hasn't stopped, and I'm praying that it could stop before I die. But trying my best to just make sure that the community and our people are informed and on top, because yeah, there's just a lot of things I can say. But yeah, passionate Latina and also a survivor of the outdated racist policies. So, and I come with a lot of experience.
Awesome. Since this is an informal meeting, attendees, you guys can just raise your hands and chime in when you can. If you hear one of the presenters or one of the panelists speak on something that you're interested in, please just raise your hand. I'll call you. So the business of cannabis in Washington Heights and Inwood, or just in communities of color, why we having this meeting is because, and we'll continue to have these meetings, is so we can try our best to stay ahead of what's coming, right? We know that a bulldozer is coming, and I want us to be completely prepared for when that bulldozer hits, both in knowledge and understanding how our government is trying to facilitate some of these issues that we're going to have. Equity is important. Access is important. The Office of Cannabis Management just had their first board meeting today, and they spoke on various things. But one of the things I wanted to highlight was Jason Starr, who was he became the chair of equity. What's the official title, Bilal?
He's a social equity officer.
Right, which is important. And if you guys know, the first major meeting we had about cannabis, he was one of our panelists. So basically what I'm trying to say is someone who understands our plight is at the forefront of what's coming, which is important, right? Because so many times in so many different industries, we do not have an advocate of our own in there, in the table, helping create laws and infrastructure. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Jason Starr because he's dope, man. And if you guys go back to our meeting, I think it was in February. It was right before Domingo left last year. So 2020, I think March or February was our meeting, and Jason was our star. He was our moderator and our panelist, and he really spoke on some points that is something that we really got to focus on. So let's talk about our businesses and our small businesses and how they would possibly be affected by it. Miriam and Pilar, like I said, have experience in just the cannabis industry itself from different points. So Miriam and Pilar, how do you see cannabis coming into our neighborhoods, and how can we fight for our chunk? What are some of the things we got to do to be advocates in the smart way, not the loud, but how can we be smart about how we direct our needs? Go ahead, Miriam.
I mean, I think what we have to, and I say this coming to you as a person in the CBD space who is, I still don't have a bank account. You know, so I tell you, you have to come in, you can't come into this space. Oh, I'm going to sell flour. Like, I'm just going to sell flour. This industry needs everybody, needs everything. It needs writers, it needs designers, it needs PR people, it needs security, it needs maintenance, it needs housekeeping, it needs packaging, it needs everything. So the first thing you have to say to yourself, if you want to get in this space, is not like, okay, I want to grow weed, because if too many people grow weed, ain't nobody going to make money, because the price is going to go way down and it's just not going to be profitable. Because if you look at the regulations and the taxes that they put on anything that touches the flower, you might want to consider an ancillary business that doesn't touch the flower but supports the industry. You make more money. Right now, we have a lot of people growing. We need processors. We need people to extract, to process. It's 2021. We should be recycling the biomass. Like, we need to think out of the box. We can't just think, I want a consumption lounge and I want to smoke and I want to sell weed. No, think of out of the box. This industry is brand spanking new. It needs everything. So what are you good at that you can just transfer over into the industry? That's the most basic entry point into the industry. You're a lawyer. How can you be a lawyer in this space? You're an accountant. How can you pivot to be an accountant in this space? You're an HR person. How can you pivot? Like, that's the fastest way, right, Pilar, that you go in. You're an advocate. How can you like really get yourself up to speed? You're an entrepreneur. How can you help other entrepreneurs? What do you know that you can share? Like, I can tell you, whether you're an LLC, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a co-op, whatever entity you are, you're going to need a business plan, and you're going to have to show that you can make money. Whether you're a social business or not, you're going to have to pay rent and a lot of taxes. So how do you make money? Like, this is a business. So you got to think, how are you going to make money and how are you going to show that on paper? Start cleaning up your credit. You want to be in this space, start cleaning up your credit, start paying your taxes, get all your paperwork in order, because you're going to have to show 1 to 2 years of your information just to get your business plan and all of that. Start looking at incubators. Us on community boards and advocates, we need to push the electeds to bring in incubators, bring in grants, because we don't have rich uncles like people did in California. They have $250,000 of clean money sitting there ready to invest in our industry. So you really have to put your stuff in order, work in teams, because it's a lot of work. I got into this and I run my business by myself. It's insane. Like, I'm at the point where I have to start growing. So if you could create a team of founders, people you can trust, that you all kind of offset each other's expertise. Like, don't everybody be the business person. You're going to need someone who's a creative, who's a designer, a PR person, a salesperson, a bookkeeping person. Like, look at your squad at who can fill in all the positions in your business, because you can't do this alone. This industry is a lot. And what people don't say is you don't make a lot of money in this industry. Right? In the legal side, in the beginning, it's very regulated. It's extremely regulated and taxed. And another thing you're going to learn is you can't play in the world of online advertising. You can't run a Google ad. You can't run a Facebook ad. You can't do any of that. You can't sell on Amazon. So you have to get really savvy on how you set up your social platforms and your networks. Like, to be a successful cannabis CBD business, you can't go at your digital the way everybody does. Like, you have to play with your SEO. You have to have a blog in order to get over that ban of CBD and cannabis on Facebook and Google and everyone. You have to get really creative. So from a community, we really need to push for accelerators. Right now, there's so much support for Latinos and Black and Brown businesses that you need to like get in touch with your Small Business Development Bureau. Uptown, we have the Washington Heights bid. What's the other one? And I know in Harlem, we have the Empire Development, that they give classes and webinars. Columbia University, which is right in our neighborhood, has a small business development center that you can take classes for free. Like finance 101 for free at Columbia University. I'll put the link in here. But you know, these are things that you have to do. You have to get yourself ready as a business person, because it's a cutthroat business, and you're going to have all the skills as a person making $1 million in like, you know, in any industry, because it's that sophisticated. Jump in, Pilar, because it's a sophisticated industry.
Hold on,
All
Joelle.
right.
I'm gonna get to you once
Well,
Pilar
yes.
finishes, okay?
So if anyone has any questions, hit me up. But it's like, it's a lot of pay to play in the space. There's a lot of associations, but you got to pay to join them. There's a lot of opportunities that you can sponsor, but you got to pay to participate. So your first couple of years, just think in your mind that you're going to need money just to invest in your operations, in your infrastructure, in your sales, in your PR, just getting your name out there, establishing your business. Like right now, start doing that, like trademarking names, pulling your team together, kind of figuring it all out, seeing where you can take free business classes, just to start getting an idea how to map out what you need to do, because it's a lot.
Pilar?
Yeah, I mean, and I see Joel's hand is up. I didn't know if you want to, or should I wait?
I want you to speak so that way he gets all the information and he can
Okay,
ask
thanks.
whoever
All
he
right,
wants.
great. So no, I mean, she said pretty much a lot of things. Like, you know, a lot of folks that I talk to, they're like, "Oh, dispensary, dispensary, dispensary." I'm like, listen, you know, there's so much. Like she mentioned, there's all these, and I wanted to share it. I could actually pull it up for us so that we could all see it. But there's like so many like businesses that can be, you know, that. Hold on, let me see if I could do this again. Like she mentioned, like you could, the security. So here's a good chart, and I will share it with you guys so you could have it. But this is from the People's Dispensary in California, and these are all the areas that you could be a part of when it comes to cannabis. And Miriam did a good job in naming a lot of them. And so, but here's like a visual for that. And she said it: start your team. You know, also really, I would encourage reaching out to people like CB12, and because they have connections to people like us, or reach out to me or Miriam to help you connect with the proper lawyers también, because what's happening too, a lot of lawyers are out here pretending, or at least I'm seeing the trend of a lot of lawyers, you know, telling people they can start a business now and that there's licenses. So like you want to have access to a good lawyer that's not going to take you for a run of your money. You know, we really, again, like start thinking outside the box. I was mentioning, you know, earlier to you that, you know, even start, and I know that NYCHA is a federally subsidized funded housing, but start even thinking how, you know, you as community members start even thinking about community gardens and being the, you know, supplying the weed to the dispensaries, you know, so cultivating in the community. But there's just so many avenues of business, worker co-ops, where you're a worker and an owner, and so the money you put in and the profits that come in, they're equally distributed amongst the workers and the owners. There's just so many things, and again, Miriam said it. Start writing your proposals out. get someone to help you, which is why we need more incubator programs, because we need people. Not everybody knows how to write a proposal, and so like there's classes you can take, but we need this because these companies are going to come in and they have, like you said, privilege and access is going to come in. Also for the community board, and I think in CB9 you guys were doing something like this, and people in Chicago, let me stop sharing. People in Chicago also did this. They made a community benefits agreement. And so, this is where you pretty much tell the multi-state operators, the big corporations, what if they want to come in this community, this is what they have to do, because it's going to be, I'm not one for big corporations because they tend to take out the mom and pops. But the reality is that they're going to, especially since a lot of the big medical marijuana companies have automatic, they'll transition right into the legal market automatically. They already have a ahead of the game. So, and there's also ways that we could probably partner with them in ways so that, again, that money they're making, they're, that money's not going to people's pockets. Like I even tell the government when we were lobbying, like, I need to be clear on this. This money is for reparations. This is not for the state to pay back its bills. This is not for, companies to come in and extort our communities and, extort our communities more. We have much evidence to show how harmful and unhealthy and violent prohibition has been to our communities and our people's mental health and their livelihood. Housing has been taken away from people who have had records for marijuana. They have no access to opportunities for higher education because you couldn't get any funding. You could get no prevent you from housing. There are some states, including New York, right? In New York, you cannot get a job as a dog walker if you have a misdemeanor. And so, there are ridiculous barriers that especially when it came to marijuana, that harm people. I myself have been in prison, and I'm thankful. I'm a strong person, had great support, a great support system, but it's not good for your mental health, even for the couple of days or however long you're there. It's not healthy, and we need to see and look at the numbers of all the years and all the people that have been put in jail who have been harassed and molested by the NYPD. Like, stopping, like, it's and people who had businesses. My ex had a juice bar back in 1999 that he sold juice before the whole juice craze, and sold weed, and that got shut down. But he invested money in that business, and that money was never given back to him. And then he was put in jail, and that money, the money and time he spent there was not given back. So, for this money is to be for reparations, and it needs to be clear. And that's why, with this, the community board, and why the community, what we need to do is to, one, make sure we're on top of it. We're informing the community on a regular basis, and using the resources and access to these people who can provide these trainings. Like, there's a lot of big corporations that can provide trainings on how to write a proposal, businesses that they should be giving money, because I guarantee you they're going to be also being, a lot of people you'll be surprised are in cannabis. So all these corporations should be giving the districts and the communities, especially the top communities the most harmed, where Washington Heights is one of those communities, that you give them, they need that. The same education and type of learning that those privileged people get, we need to give that, and need to give it for free, because you prevented us from making money and having a livelihood for so long because we chose to use a plant. Marijuana is a plant that comes from seeds. Like tomatoes, they have a seed, you plant it, and boom, it produces. What happens here is it produces a flower, this is what the lovely flower looks like. This plant back here, so it's not a harmful thing. This idea that it's, oh my God, crazy, and even treating it like tobacco, which I don't agree with, which is how it's kind of being treated with this new legislation, but it's always a battle. But it's a plant. It is medicine. It is plant-based medicine. I will stand by that marijuana is more safe than all the pharmaceutical medicines that exist on the
I
market right
think New
now.
York State officially agreed. We need
Yeah.
to. I mean, I think it's official. I mean, New York is down. Like we, you know, if I don't know if you guys have had NYPD at any of your meetings. We had the 26th precinct at our meeting last night, and they're not arresting. Like right now, you can have up to 3 ounces, and they're like, it's not our, like we're not. If there's more than 3 ounces, then maybe blah blah blah. But they're not. That's not their concern anymore. There's a lot bigger
Yeah, they were
things
very
happening.
supportive. In the 23rd and the 25th precinct was very supportive with our Juneteenth block party, and we were promoting, consumption, and we had a story book reading for the kids. It was a family event, and they came and they were like, "Pilar, you got it." I was like, "Yeah," and I was really surprised and happy though at the same time, but just like really get creative and like Miriam said, your skills, start putting those,
Yeah,
we have so many skills that we don't even realize, like especially if you've been hustling all this time. You got administrative skills, you got financial skills, you know how to do a lot of different things, and we don't realize that. And I even myself hadn't realized how many skills I have developed over the years, even from just a lot of different things. Facilitating a meeting is a skill, and so it's just that. And also that, I do believe, and which is why we need that money to be put in the community, and we need to get money now. We need those
you
trainings on like how to
also,
work together, because we it's hard. We've been traumatized for so long. We've normalized trauma, and we've forgotten a lot of time of how to work together. And we need to heal. A lot of it comes though from healing, and but we need to take what's ours and make sure that, like everything else, this is not colonized, because it is happening. I'll stop there.
Joel, what say you?
Hi guys. Hi Pilar. Hi Miriam. It's first of all, you guys did said a lot, like touched on so much. But let me introduce myself. So my name is Joel. This is my second business development meeting, and I am finding this to be interesting because so what I do, I'm a financial. I'm in finance. I'm a Series 6 holder. I'm an investment banker for JP Morgan. So it's funny because I never thought that uh, I put in to be in the business development, but I never thought that I would be actually in it. Um, and and when it comes to this cannabis stuff, and I'm opening up accounts for these businesses, they don't allow it. Chase does not allow for any type of marijuana industry to be banking. So it's difficult for me as a business banker to see how we could find funding. And I'm hearing Miriam talk, and I'm hearing Pilar talk, and it's I think you guys both touched on it. Different avenues. That chart you put up, Pilar, is amazing because I'm looking at it, and it's definitely a broad spectrum. But I see all this is I'm really glad to be here, right? As a banker, I think I'm gonna be able to, especially find ways to finance some of these things because a lot of clients that I have, uh, they're venture capitalists, they're incubators, they're people who have crowdfunding, right? This is how they do it. They don't do it coming out of their own pocket. They do it by building equity. They do it by building relationships with banks, collateralizing loans. They do this with other people's money. And it sucks because the marijuana industry doesn't have that luxury to collateralize a loan or have a bank account that uh, they see cash flow and they could put a loan against that cash flow. And I feel like there has to be a plan in terms of creating a business or creating different businesses, right? And getting a way to finance it. And the only way I see is through crowdfunding and piling and partnering. I think it was you, Miriam, that touched upon this, where you have to partner, create an LLC and create maybe shares of the LLC where investors put in some sort of equity or fund, and they put in some sort of funds and they get a percentage of the company. Is the way that we're going to be able to do it, especially if we're not going to get financed by big banks. These big companies coming in, they have been established since before all of this. Like there's companies that are not even in the industry and will get into the industry because of how profitable it is. So I like finding this very interesting because I grew up in Washington Heights. I'm still there. My mom lives there. I've been there. I'm 30 years old, so I've been there all my life. And I see people every day that I grew up that had lost opportunities because they sold a baggie or like a dime, and they don't have an opportunity now. You know, I never sold drugs, but I know of so many of my close friends that it was that's all it took to derail them in their life, in their path. So
And
I'm glad that I got this opportunity to be here.
and the bill is kind of also like is a social equity. You know, there's a social equity application act aspect of it where it pretty much it says like if you're a minority owned business, a women owned business, a distressed farmer, a vet, they're gonna the bill writes out that pretty much you're gonna be
It's
prioritized.
for us. The bill is for us.
Oh, right.
So
But we got to make
they're
sure
Question.
that it
You're
is
ready.
costly because fees, another thing, all these things is money, and
Yep.
I don't have
I
money.
encourage everyone, look at the Massachusetts application. Just look at the Massachusetts cannabis application. Just Google it, find it, you'll find it. And that'll give you an idea of what's coming for New York, because
but it's an
Massachusetts was the Massachusetts cannabis application process. Just Google that and you'll find it. I found it last week because that's the only one that was done that has social equity provisions, not as much as New York, but you can kind of see the criteria that's coming for New York, like the background, like everything. Start getting your ducks in a row. I cannot stress enough that just because they're going to give us social equity licenses, they're not going to hand them to us. You're still going to have to go through fire to get it. So start cleaning up your
an
credit if
application
you
for
can.
what though? An
To
application.
be able to, so if you want to have a consumption lounge, if you want to have a
Consumption lounge,
dispensary, if you
dispensary.
want to
Okay.
grow, if you want to
Okay.
touch the flower. So think of
Okay.
it this way, any industry that's going to touch the flower is going to require a license. Ancillary doesn't touch the flower. Pilar's chart, look at it, it's like a flower. The businesses that touch the flower are at the center, and those are the most heavily regulated.
Mm.
Okay.
Everything outside, they don't regulate you as much. The banks are gonna, you see that, the ones in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
the cultivation, the growth, the processing, those are the most heavily regulated, taxed. Those are the ones that are going to have to go through fire and get licenses. Everyone in pink, in yellow, in blue, you don't need a license for that. And you're
Okay.
still in the industry.
Joel,
Okay. Yes.
Joel, has there been any conversation at your bank about cannabis and the prospects of one day allowing folks to have a bank account and or get a loan?
Um. So JP Morgan just started allowing CBD to get a bank account, but and I don't even think they're allowed. They need a court. I think they need like a special documentation, or special licenses to be scanned over, and it has to be sent over to legal, and they gotta review financials because a lot of businesses that do that they have to do this AML, which is anti-money laundering. It's like it's a bunch of paperwork. So they
Let me
haven't
show
even
you how
touched
you
the.
go around it. Let me explain you how you go around banking as a CBD or cannabis business. You get QuickBooks, you connect it to your store, and all your transactions get funneled through. Everything's managed. You have a
Mhm.
personal account and you just use it exclusively for your business. Don't ever touch the money from that account so that you can have clean bookkeeping, even though it's a
Wow.
personal account.
Yep.
Just use it
Have any?
exclusively for your
Did
cannabis
you?
or CBD or whatever. Then connect it to a Venmo, connect it to a Cash App. I didn't tell you all of this. You connect it to a Venmo, you connect it to a Cash App, you get QuickBooks, and voila, you can have a P&L, a balance sheet, everything. All your stuff
Oh,
is
so you're
documented. You can even pay your sales tax.
yeah, you're running it
You don't
as a
need
sole
banks
proprietor.
anymore, thanks to Venmo and Square. You honestly, what do you need banks for?
So
Question: Is there any
I,
tax implication on that?
that's what I was gonna
You have
say.
to pay sales tax. You pay
Yeah,
sales tax, corporate tax. Anyone who wants to do this, start getting your EIN number, set your business, because you're gonna
mhm.
need an EIN number. Nothing should be on your personal social security.
This is
You
what I was
want a
gonna ask.
business, you need to set up a business entity. And again, like Pilar was saying, you might want to do a co-op. Co-ops are very, very good because it's a shared wealth. It's a shared wealth model. But again, know who everyone in your co-op is, because if you're all good at the same thing, your co-op is going to suck. Everyone at the co-op has to be good at something else so that you all rise, because the more people in the co-op, the more money you're going to have to make so that you all can survive. Because
Yeah.
this is business.
Right.
No matter how you cut it, dice it, or slice it, you're going to have to make money. You're going to have to pay bills, and you're going to have to pay your rent to be in this
Yeah.
space. So
So I had a yeah.
LLC, sole proprietor, but you want to, or co-op, you need to establish a business structure. You don't want this on your social security.
That's what I was gonna ask you. If you're doing QuickBooks and you're how are you how do you have your business structure? Because the tax
I'm an LLC,
you
sole
did
proprietor. And
oh so you're
QuickBooks
using
has it that you can be sole proprietor, or you can be, QuickBooks is really good right now. I recommend it that you use it. You know,
because
again, if
you're a single member LLC, which allows you to use
correct,
your social security. That's why. Okay. I was like, okay,
but
that makes sense.
get the EIN number, not just because it protects you personally for any
Okay.
liability, but there's a lot of grants out there right now and incubators, and you can't apply unless you're a business.
Right. And it's also important to get a EIN number, just because once banks start getting into it and you're
You're already ahead of the
banks
game.
don't bear, banks don't
You're ahead.
lend
You're ahead of the
2 year,
game.
a 2 year organization. So you need to have some history. You need to be established already, and they're not gonna lend
You
to
need to
somebody who
start
just created
securing your
formulated.
name. You need to start clearing your name with the United States trademark. Lawyers are
Yeah.
going to tell you that, you got to go through a lawyer to do this. I didn't go through a lawyer. I did it myself. You can watch a video, just United States Trademark Organization. You're going to sit through the worst little half-hour tutorial, but it saves you $1,500.
Christine
And
is
you can trademark for $250 a name. Check your name, because make sure you clear all your social media names, your website names, your hosting names. It's like there's a lot of things you have to do when you set up a business. You don't just open for business. You get your EIN number. You secure all your social, your website. Then before you print and spend any money, you want to lock down all of those things. You want to lock down your name, your domain, your social handles, your Twitter handles. You want to have all of that stuff secured.
Ready to go. Yeah. That's good. Man. That's awesome.
Give me,
that's
Joel.
good.
Joel, let me let some folks from the public ask any questions. If you're in one of our attendees please raise your hand or just, join in? Christine, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening. It's actually nighttime. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this meeting together, providing the information. I have lived in Washington Heights my whole life. And I have tried to figure out ways to become more active in the community. With this situation, just to give everybody a little bit of a background, I was in the medical field. I am an entrepreneur. I have my own catering company, and now I work in the court system. So one of the things that keeps coming up, and I hear everything that everyone is saying though, but I always feel that in our communities, we're always starting at the bottom, trying to work our way up, where other communities are already established, where we're saying, oh, you have to, I want to be a homeowner. I don't want to be the person that is waiting for the home to be handed to me. And so with this situation, it's the same thing where Black and Brown communities are not being afforded the opportunity to be in these rooms and in these spaces because we don't have the space in our community to grow. And I get not everybody needs to be a dispensary. I get not, because of the regulations, they're not going to allow you to grow in your apartment unless they make certain regulations for that. You can
grow in your home. You can grow up to 6 plants.
You're going to be allowed to have 3 plants. Medical marijuana patients can
up
grow
to
up to
12
3
pounds.
plants.
Yeah, up to 12 per household. So if there's 2 of you,
so you have to have the card. You have to be a patient.
You have to be a patient, but to be a patient, and this is not just for this community, this is the whole state. And to be a patient, I'm a medical marijuana patient. If you have arthritis, you qualify. If you have any pain that they would have given you a pain pill right now, you can be a patient. And you can have a card and you have access to grow in your house.
Guys, quickly, before Christine keeps going, correct me if I'm wrong, recreational use, you're allowed to have 5 pounds in your home, right?
Right now, 3 ounces.
No. So 3 ounces on possession on you. And then, you can't grow more or have more than the 5 pounds. But I think it's 12 pounds, actually. 12 pounds total. It can't go higher than 12.
Okay.
But I may have to get clarification. I don't know if you necessarily need a medical marijuana to grow at home now.
Yes.
But
medical marijuana, the law that changed, it's if you have to be a patient to grow. It's not adult use can grow. That's what I thought, but we can check it.
So
I do. Go ahead.
Sorry. So with all of that, my question is, how as a community, and like I said, I heard, the advocating, whatever you're good at is what you need to cultivate, or, but how as a community can we now, again, because it's something that our community has suffered from, like we said, we've watched people we know, we've watched people we love just for a bag, end up not being able to have a successful life. How, even now, like I said, I work in the court system. I know people that are still locked up right now for marijuana charges where they should have all been released.
Yeah, no, and that's a real thing. And I just also want to just quickly, before answering that, to clarify about the plants. So individuals 21 and over may plant, cultivate, harvest, dry, process, or possess 3 mature cannabis plants and 3 immature cannabis plants at one time. A private residence is limited to 6 mature and 6 immature plants at a time. Individuals may possess up to 5 pounds of cannabis in their private residence so long as they take responsible steps to ensure their cannabis is in a secure place and not accessible to anyone 21 and over. That's what it says around that.
Wait, Pilar, can you send, excuse me for the noise, I'm outside. There's a party going inside of my house, so I apologize. But can you put it on the chat, like the source, so I can read that?
Yeah. I could. So like we in one of my working groups, the lawyers were kind enough to like write this out. So I'll send this to you. and it
Yeah,
like
that's
broke it
nice.
down so that it was pretty clear for us. But Christine, to answer your question about how we need to get involved, another thing that we didn't mention is going to be really important to really be involved in your community, you know, the small businesses, networking with other small businesses, with the community board. I have been going to community board meetings for so long, and I was ashamed that not many of my people were not there, and so many decisions are being made and so much information is being present. And sometimes, you know, the community board in my district could have done a better job in facilitating and communicating that info, but it's also us. We have to hold ourselves accountable too. And that's why we are here. People like Miriam are here because we have relationships with these people who, so you have the connection to be like, hey, I want to be a part of this. Because I'll tell you, during our whole 5 years of trying to get this bill passed, it was somewhat a struggle to get people like us in these meetings. It was very taken over by corporate and attorneys, but then there was a handful of us there. But I can't tell you how many times I put out a call for people to come, and I've had community events, and now is when the interest. So we have to we also have to be part of this regulation part. The community board, it seems that, it looks like we're working towards making sure that info is shared, because they're going to be public meetings. There's going to be an advisory board that's supposed to be advising the control board. So that means that's how our voices are going to get heard. So I definitely have been talking this up to the public advocate and to my community board that we need to have regular meetings, somewhat like the rezoning meetings that were happening, and they ran by us. I didn't really like that some of whoever it was that ran these whatever the meetings were called, but I don't know if you've ever seen them. But they would come, at least here in this district, they came with these big charts of like the district, and then showed us about zoning and used color charts. And so they were very informative and educational. And I'm a visual person and I have dyslexia. So it's really, I can't have a lot of words. And that's why I appreciate being in spaces with access to lawyers who are really, they take a priority to make sure that we understand, and that they're putting they're listening to what because I don't like the lingo. And so we need to have more community engagement meetings, because this process right now that's happening is going to be so crucial, because they're going to be like, we need to do this. But what if, Christine, you don't agree? And what if there's like 100 of you that don't agree, or thousands of you that don't agree? We have to make sure that that gets communicated to them. So we just have to create like a system. And, I welcome anyone who wants to be part of this next step in regulatory, of the working group that worked on the worker cooperative language. We are like going to start the regulation process, and we're opening for everyone to be part of this, because this next part is so crucial, because it's the social equity, the permits, it's the social equity aspect, like, so the reparations, the community reinvestment. That means there's money coming back into the community. So community board, how are we going to know, how are we going to make sure that it's complied, that the money goes to the right places in your community? So even that has to be established within the community, the decision makers and the leaders. So what I'm saying is that this is not the first and last meeting. This is, hey, meeting one. And I think, depending how this should be a priority, because people are looking, as we talked about, as marijuana as a money, and it will make a lot of money in this state. We smoke the most weed in the world. We're number one, and I think the numbers changed, but we smoke 79 metric tons of weed. We top California, and California's been legal forever. And to talk about expungements, Christine, we do have automatic expungements. And if there is someone that's still in prison that still for just weed, then we should definitely talk, because those are people I've been told are supposed to be released. Now, what's happening is that there are some people who have weed and other things on there. And what's happening is that that's what they're being held on. And so what I hope, I have to check in with the lawyers, that the time though is supposed to be shortened, because of now the marijuana is supposed to be expunged, but it's still so much work. But we just have to stay informed and do this work. And hold the line. That was our biggest line in Albany. Hold the line, and what I mean is, corporations are going to push their way through, and all these people are going to push their way through. You got to hold the line, and so I'm going to shut up there.
That's awesome. Miriam, I have a specific question for you. Me and Pilar spoke about this earlier. You are in the CBD hemp market, right? Do folks who are already in that business have an easier journey? If this is for people who actually want to touch flower. Do those folks like yourself, not easier, but a much simpler path to licensing if you choose to go that route? Have you heard anything because you're already in that CBD?
Absolutely not. There's
No?
no, the only advantage I have is that I've already established a business, and I established this business in CBD I trademarked in 29. I started doing this, I think, in 2016. Trademarked, applied for my trademark in 2018, was given the trademark November 2019. I've been getting myself ready since 2016 for this. I went to Albany. I took my kid to Albany twice, my 9-year-old, to lobby for legalization. Like, I believed in this. Like, this didn't just happen. This was a lot of crazy people for many, many years pushing for this, getting themselves ready to be ready to join this market. So I don't get a front of the line. I just have the experience that I already know what I'm walking into.
I'm asking that
if I choose to, and I'm going to be honest, I looked at the Massachusetts regs the other day, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I even want to deal with this, because I initially wanted to make cannabis products, like topicals, oils, body care products. That's what I do. I make products, and it is so complicated that I'm like, my life is good right now. Like, maybe I just keep going in a different route. Like, I work with all plants. Like, it's that complicated that you have to kind of ask yourself, am I ready for this? Because you're going to cry a lot. You're going to, like, you talk to people in this space, and it's difficult, it's not easy, like I've cried when banks, like, you spend a week putting all your paperwork in order, and the bank says no, and no reason, no. And you're like, why? No, you put an ad, your Facebook's down, you post something, you get a warning from Etsy, you get a warning from this one, you get a thing from that one. And it's every day. You have to watch what you say, how you say it, or you get shut down. It's getting better now, but it was really, really crazy. Like, even to trademark my name, I had to kind of fool them. I couldn't believe they didn't catch it, because I'm like, herb as body care, and they're saying it slowly, and I'm like, okay, and I got it. But it's the reason I say get yourself ready for business, because it's a cutthroat space. The people, the industry that's set up, all these big businesses, these people have a lot of money, and these were hustlers. So it's an industry like no other. I was in the beauty industry, in corporate. It's a different kind of corporate world. It's not, when you say big business is coming, it's big business, but it's big hustlers.
I have a quick question.
Legal
2
hustlers,
questions.
right? So you have to think that no matter how established this industry is, you got to have your smarts. You got to have street smarts. You got to have gut instincts. You got to know how to read people. And I think people in New York, in the Heights, in Harlem, have an advantage to all of this. It's just, we don't have the funding and the business background. And that's why I tell you, the electeds, the community board, that's where we come in. We have to make this shit happen. We have to facilitate workshops. You see how the Malcolm Shabazz Center on like 168th Street, Senator Jackson always has small business fairs. There needs to be a small business fair just for cannabis people, and have lawyers in there. Have someone talking about.
See, that's what I was gonna say. There needs to be a center. There needs to be a center there's three things that I
But
want to say. So
Francisco,
there's
you know, but wait, let me finish. You know, the community boards play a very important role, district needs. I know you know this because we're in the district needs process right now. We are mandated. This is our sole role. We're mandated by the state to tell the city agencies how to spend the budget every year. We're in that process right now. We need to tell the city, we need to tell the Department of Health, we need to tell NYPD, we need to tell social services what to spend their money on. We should be asking for something. We should be asking for something somehow, some programming, some incubators. Like this is where community boards come in. You know, we need to pull the electeds to do more. You know, we should be having, like he said, a center, a specific just to support people, any questions. There should be a hotline, there should be something, you know, but it needs to be happening now. And we need to be asking for that money now. I know Community Board 9, we're thinking of having a task force. And maybe it's something that we combine, Community Board 12 and Community Board 9, and we do a task force, because I don't know who said it in the beginning, that this is a topic that crosses health, it crosses economic development, it crosses everything, it crosses uniformed officers, because you know we have to deal with the people who are still in jail. That's not right.
Yeah,
That's not
absolutely.
right. So all of this has to keep moving while people start getting on board.
Joel.
So I have two questions. Can you I know you were mentioned something, Francisco, in regards to a new board in the beginning. I didn't hear that today was the first meeting.
Oh yeah, the Office of Cannabis Management had their first
Oh, it,
meeting,
oh,
but they
okay.
they're a board, so they have different folks who they today was really just about who is going to be on the board and who's going to be part of the team that's going to build infrastructure. That's really what the meeting was about. It wasn't about legislation or social justice.
Is this
Anything.
It was very
citywide
short.
or is the state? What was
Right.
it? The state or the city?
It was
Statewide.
a
Statewide.
public meeting statewide. Yeah,
The public. Yep.
Okay.
Was it in
And
Albany?
is there
it was in Albany. I had plans to go up there, and I totally forgot it was Tuesday.
is there a city version of that, or no? Is it just going to be totally
yet.
state ran?
Oh.
State.
It-
It's a
Oh,
state.
it'll come.
It's a state agency, a brand
It's
new
a state agency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think about it
Okay.
like liquor.
No, they have a website already. If you Google the Cannabis Regulatory Agency, New York State, it comes up. They don't have much information, but it's going to be like the Department of Labor. It's the Department of Cannabis.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's definitely another place of advocacy that I've let them know. But like, yeah, this is supposed to be public meetings, and it's not going to be city level per se, but I feel like, what the role of the social equity officer is also going to be is he's going to have to be going into the districts, having those conversations. The advisory board is supposed to be a board of 13 members, and the governor gets 7 choices of those 13, and the state assembly gets 3, and the state senate gets 3 choices. And that advisory board is like a volunteer based board, but they will, if there's like expenses that come up while they're doing their duties, they will, that will be paid for, and they're going to be advising this, the control board, and be working or I've heard distributing the community reinvestment funds, and be part of that
That's
process. So they didn't talk about that today, but that's another step that's still supposed to go on. So I would assume with the advisory board, since there's supposed to be 13 members coming out through the state, along with agencies, so like the Department of Health, all the agencies that are all intersected with this will be part of that too. But I would assume those would be the community, because they're supposed to be community members, people who have been directly affected. So we're trying to make sure that that doesn't also get too corporate. So that's another step to come, but it was just
Uh,
vague, and they need to make sure they translate it because I was like, where was the Spanish translation?
and
Now,
not only that,
my
it needs
question,
to
do
be
they have his,
broadcasted.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
It
what
needs
we were talking about today. They
yeah,
didn't
it
even
needs to be
broadcast it. They had
it needs to be
jobs.
broadcast.
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
resumes of apparently people who are going to be the staff for the executive board. And I was like, well, I was telling, like, where was that information? And even we went through it. Like, it's not easy information out there. So how did
it's
people
not.
even
Yeah,
apply?
and it's
it's
something that
FOIL.
we
I mean, you should be able to access all of it. You can FOIL the Freedom of Information Law. All of that's public.
No, but
It's
I
yeah.
mean, like,
there.
they didn't share that. Hey, do you think you have what it takes to work
Yeah,
administrative assistant for the executive director, or whatever the positions, or program coordinator? I don't know, but it looks like they approved the resolution because they had a stack of resumes already, and I'm like, well, how do we know that was
those are the positions of power that that are going to be heavily influenced, not only just on regulations and policies, but also are going to have the ear of investors, right? And they're going to be in the pockets of investors. Like those are the positions that are that they're
Say
positions of
investors,
very
do you
big.
mean, when you say
Like for
investors,
example,
do you mean lobbyists?
uh, well, lobbyists and investors. So lobbyists, yes, for policies, but I think also investors
The
are going to
cannabis
hire.
industry,
Yeah,
the
investor.
existing
Yeah,
industry. Yeah.
they're gonna hire advisors to
the
kind of
pharmaceutical
go.
companies, all of
Yeah,
them.
they're gonna go into these meetings with advisors. It's okay. These are the regulations and lawyers that know how to interpret these laws or these policies that this office is gonna come up with, right? And these are positions of power that uh, uh, people like us have to go to, right? There should be I mean, I guess there is representatives from here, but definitely should be broadcasted
They
or some sort.
definitely, I will say this, they definitely did a good job with the elected the executive board, because prior to Governor Cuomo's whole scandal, there were some very privileged people who were not aligned with the mission and values of legalization and why this money needs to come back to us. So there were people who were already, we were told, in place to get these positions, that mostly white men in corporate, they represented corporations and what the things you mentioned. But because the whole scandal happened, thankfully, because also, we have been at the ears of the leaders and the side with this bill that, people like Drug Policy Alliance had been also pushing, which is why the executive director is the pharmacy policy writer for DPA, who helped, be part of this, write this bill. And so we got some good faith representation on the executive. So, we just got to make sure we hold them accountable, and then also make sure that the information is transparent, it's language accessible. And that's only going to happen if we get our people to be part of that, because I sit on a coalition called the Rent Justice Coalition, and we are the ones who push the rent guidelines board, who makes the determination for the rent stabilized rents in New York, what the rent will be increased or not. And so a lot of the times, we, at least in my experience in that coalition, the board isn't really transparent, and you need to have some pressure on them, and you need to
Yeah,
have a group of people, because at one point they didn't want to give us translation, and they were like, well, there's no one signing up who speaks Spanish. And I was like, well, that's because you're not giving the information out and
yeah,
you're
and
communicating. So yeah.
I think
And
it's also
I want to
important.
add something in there, that we need to be very vigilant, the Latinx community, that we're represented on this board, because there's a lot, and I tell you this because in New York, it's a lot of black and brown push and the black and brown community, but then when you show up at the events, there's no Latinx people. So I tell you, my people, we need to be represented. You need to make sure you are on advisory boards. You need to make sure you're in the room, because it's very hard for us to be in the room. I'm telling you, there's
No,
a lot of tension
there's a lot of unity, there's a lot of black and brown, but when it comes to this, things get said and there's a lot of division. And the way this impacts the Latinx community is very different than the African American community in some instances. We have a big barrier with immigration. There's a lot of people afraid in our community because of immigration, of the cannabis space, you know, that they're afraid to even be near, you know, you can't be seen, you can't be talking, you know, there's a whole other world of immigration that holds our people back.
That's one of the things that's one of our biggest issues in our community, right? Even I deal with it as a Dominican born and raised in the Heights. I go to these businesses and representing the board, and they don't want nothing to do with me because they think I'm a cop. So these are situations that I get, and I'm speaking in Spanish. I'm Dominican as can be. I'm speaking to them in our language, and they still like, nah.
I'm not talking to you.
I went to a bike shop. I went to like 6 different bike shops just to see what is the effect of City Bike on our bike shops. I got like 3 responses, and only 2 of them were confirmed responses. The other response was just like, yeah, and there was a language barrier, and there's a fear, and there is the propaganda that we've dealt for decades that our people inherited. And when I mean our people, I'm talking about immigrants of all shades. We've inherited this thought that marijuana is crack, and don't dare stand next to it, because if you do, you're going to jail. Deportation. These are things that our Haitians, our West Indians, our Africans, our Dominicans, our Cubans.
This is a
we all
real
have to deal with
issue that no one's talking about because everyone's so ready to join the business, and this doesn't affect the African American community, but legalization affects immigrants, and as you said it, very differently, and we need to figure this one out.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one's talking about this, and this is big.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joel.
I just have a quick question. You see those meetings that of this new office? Is there like a calendar, like just a calendar of their events, right on their website?
They said that today that they're going to be listing all the meetings on the website. That you'll even be able to see the minutes and the video from today's meeting on there. But I don't know.
Nice.
You know, they just hired staff, so I don't know how fast it would get up there, but that's what they promised. Like, that is going to be where you can access information. Right now, it's still very, very, like Miriam mentioned, very little information, but that's where they say you can get that. And I was just going to make a quick comment about, you know, the banks. And I think that that's something we should also think about when we think ahead, right? When marijuana gets, you know, descheduled and we finally don't have to worry about it on a federal level. And now these banks are going to be like, you're going to have Chase and all the banks have their own fucking weed, excuse me, you know, but then it's going to be like, oh, now. So maybe try to figure out now, be like, well, okay, write all the banks down and be like, well, when and if manifest, when this becomes descheduled, that we will remember Chase Bank needs to like give out loans to all those people they denied and gave hell to, like that. It should be no mother effing problem. Like, I'm gonna look ahead of the game for when we get to the federal legalization, because it seems they say we're close. I have not read the bill, so I can't even say anything about what it even says. I'm a little worried because who knows what language is in that. But you know,
I'm gonna tomorrow. When I get into work, I'm gonna talk to one of my small business specialists and see what they say when it comes to those type of loans. I'm curious to see what she's gonna say, but for next meeting, I'll let you guys know, because I'm pretty sure Chase, being a huge bank, is preparing for things, and I want to know. I want to get to know like what their plan is. Maybe get that information out, because it would be very interesting. Maybe they have like a procedure or something like that they can.
And don't let it get it twisted. We should be holding them accountable also, because they are part of the federal, the private prison industrial complex. So they make money that way too. So they're profiting off of us going to jail for marijuana, then preventing us and giving us a barrier to make put our money there with them. And then I know once the federal, it's going to be a whole different thing. And there's, these banks are always tied to something else. So I wouldn't doubt that, yeah, their Chase is Chase, but then they're somehow also tied, like the way they're tied
Yeah,
to,
their subsidiaries are probably tied. I mean, you
they're
can.
tied to
Yeah,
cannabis one
they're
way.
tied to count. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely
Joel,
agree. 'Cause
that's a very that's very amazing intel if you're able to get it to bring it to us for November, because we're going to continue this conversation, even if it's not the primary conversation. I think we're going to touch on it at least as a talking point. So if you can get as much intel from your bank as possible, especially, JP is like the biggest bank in New York City, so, well, probably in the world. If you can
yeah,
get some intel,
assets under management, but the biggest is
yeah, and not only that, like even our own small business agency, I have small conversations about this, and they're not prepared. They're not. So it's really us, man. We really gotta. One thing I learned was, if you're gonna be in this industry in any way, shape, or form, you must be an advocate. There's really no other way around it. You got to be an advocate, because we're fighting for our not, I don't want to say our lives because that's dramatic, but we are fighting for access, and we're gonna have to keep fighting for access. So
Our lives. We need the money to live our lives.
yeah, it is. I guess in that way, yeah.
Livelihood.
Livelihood, yeah, to be
Livelihood.
able to, pay the expensive rent.
So people like you, Joel, who are Latino, who are Black, who are in these spaces like JP Morgan, it's very crucial that you guys go in there and just be a spy for us and bring back some intel, because that's what's going to help us stay in front. And like Pilar said, hold the line, right? The only way we're going to hold the line is if we are armed with as much knowledge as possible. So they can't tell us, oh, you can't do that. Oh, well, we can actually. So you're not going to tell us we can't. And folks like you are crucial to that fight. So I want to wrap this up just because it's 8:30 and it's Tuesday, and I'm sure folks want to get to their herbs and get to their wines. And
I was enjoying mine. And like, you got to take the stigma away. You see, I could just fine and work. People.
no, absolutely.
You got to
But
get that away. But yeah, definitely.
This is an ongoing conversation, Miriam and Pilar. We will have. I would love to keep you guys in the loop, bring you guys back on, especially when we start talking about joining forces with like public safety and health and other community boards. I think as much as we have as many people on the field as possible is how we're gonna get this done. Christine, is there any last thing you want to talk to our say to her, or have a question for our panelists?
No, I do not. I just want to say, like I said, thank you again. It was very informative. Just so everyone knows, I am not a smoker. I've been around it my whole life. I do utilize it in my catering business. I do weed dinners and stuff like that. I do have clients who request it. So it is something that's always been at the forefront for me, because it's things that is being requested. In that sense, I look at it on a different level, because now I have to know ratios of how much oil, like it's a different ball game of math for me. So it's good to hear these things, to see where it's going. And again, how what I know and what I have, how I can assist, especially in my community, and how we can, again, push this forward and, get the knowledge that's necessary, like you guys said, to arm and make sure that people are knowledgeable and ready to say, like you said, Cisco, no, that we can do this, and stand strong in your conviction and in your no. So again, I thank you. I look forward to next meetings, and any information I can provide, I definitely will. But thank you.
Thank you. Last, Regina and Anne or L'Oreal, if you guys have any questions as well, please, this is the time. Regina?
Hi, thank you very much for this. It was very interesting. I wish you all the best success. My time for marijuana is I didn't have it when I had my kids. And then when my kid turned 30, he said, why don't you try it again? So I did, and I really like it. But I changed into a different person. And we need kind of etiquette for marijuana. You know, the same way I wouldn't go to a board meeting drunk, I'm not going to go high. And that's something to discuss with kids. You know, right now, I go twice a week up to White Plains and back. And the people who are speeding on the highway, I'm doing 50, they're like doing 70. Are they high, I wonder, or not? I don't know. But marijuana changes your thoughts, and we need to discuss some etiquette too.
I mean, I think, yeah, I definitely think, we should have a conversation about, how marijuana and our systems work and the different, strains of flower that's out there and how it, interferes with, and, because a lot of the strains have different effects. Now, I can't say why someone was speeding or blame it on being high, but I will say, well, I personally don't like to have the mindset of thinking, oh, there are some, some effects, right? But, it sounds like how it was back in the day, saying, oh, speeding, is it high is like how they said it back in the day. Oh, people who smoke marijuana are dangerous and killers, and that's not been the case. It's just that, yes, some weed, just like medicine, over the counter medicine, that's synthetic chemicals, most of it. They tell you Robitussin you can't take or driving. With marijuana, if you know what you're smoking, which is why legalization was also important, because now we're going to have dispensaries with bud tenders. That's how the medical dispensaries are. Like they know the information and the effects of what the flower will do. And again, you're not legally allowed though to drive while smoking. But again, I can't speak to that. But I think we just have to really start educating ourselves, and that's why it's going to be important about the plant. There's a really good children's book that I like to recommend. It'll teach you a little bit. It's Just the Plant by Ricardo Cortez, and we have to just have a conversation, and talk about it. But I agree, some marijuana will make you more sleepy. Some gives you a little bit more energy.
It's a very sophisticated industry. It's definitely, I mean, I'm 52 and I'm a medical marijuana patient. I take absolutely no pharmaceuticals. I have spinal arthritis and two herniated lumbar and bulging discs. I look at this as medicine. And it's very sophisticated. When the benefits of a legal market is that it is more sophisticated. You walk into a store and you are going to be able to pick, well, I want something that calms me. You're going to be able to play with the terpene profiles, the medicinal benefits of every strain. Every strain acts differently, and the way CBD and THC affect your body is very different. And the benefits of a legal market is that you can go into a store and say, I only want 10% THC, I want 1% CBD, I want 20% THC, 0 CBD. Like, you can literally play with your ratios. You can play with the form. It is moving beyond the blunt at a very accelerated speed. You will no longer smoke marijuana in a legal market because you can have it in powder form, in your honey, in any form. I tell you this because I have family in Colorado, and it is so much better to have a legal marijuana market than an illegal market, because the quality is so much more controlled, regulated, and you know what you're getting. All I can say is what you're getting, down to the scent, the
And if you
flavor.
can grow your own. You really know what
Yeah,
to do.
and also it creates business opportunities for labs, right? To create different to
There
get
you go.
funding for
There
experiments.
you
One of the
go, Joel.
businesses.
That's a whole other industry,
You see,
labs,
that's a different industry where you
lab
go and you grab a
techs.
strain. Yeah, the lab techs where you create different strains and see the aptitude for certain effects, and that's a different. That creates a whole different business opportunity
Terpenes.
where
Remember
you
this
know.
word, terpenes. Terpenes are
Okay.
very big with cannabis. This is what gives every plant on the planet has terpenes, and this is what gives a plant its personality, its aroma, and its mood. The cannabis industry introduced us to the world of terpenes because they use it to describe strains, but what we're learning now is terpenes are actually like the umbrella of aromatherapy. We can geek out on terpenes at another meeting because it's late, but
Yes.
look into terpenes because
Yeah.
people are like indica, sativa, the
I'm a
strains.
lemon.
You're gonna go into a
Um,
whole other universe when you start identifying cannabis by the terpene profile. You really start to understand this plant as medicine.
Yeah, and just FYI, there's a certification this weekend happening with Hemp State if you are thinking of becoming a bud tender. So you learn, you get some real useful information from what I'm.
Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, part of CUNY, is doing a cannabis program. So you can actually go to school now for a cannabis degree. Look into Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, part of CUNY. They are offering a cannabis degree or some kind of program. But again, these are things that community boards, we have Columbia and CUNY uptown, we could be pushing them to do a program for cannabis education, a degree
Especially City
program.
College. City College is
Yes, there
right
you
there,
go,
right there,
right
smack
there.
in the
But
yep.
these are all the things that we, the people, got to start pushing for
Yeah, I gotta
in
push
our
it.
community.
Yeah, do like a community agreement.
So Regina, thank you for your comment. Welcome to the world of cannabis. I hope that you enjoy it the best way you can and continue like I am to be educated in the plant. I'm still learning. A lot of us are still learning. I think we never stop learning. And look, and now I have another piece of stuff I have to look up. What terpenes? Am I saying it right? See, like I'm gonna get into that now. Like,
Terpenes. Once you get into terpenes, you're never going to get out of them.
okay. I got you. Ladies, queens, thank you so much for joining
Thank you
us.
guys.
Thank you. I hope that we do this again because really this is needed.
We will. And I want to get, I have you guys' information. Let's keep this conversation in our private chats going because this is important. We all know this is important and we got to make it a priority. Christine, thank you so much for joining us. Anne and L'Oreal Crowder, thank you so much for joining us. And that's it. Guys, enjoy your evening and I'll see you in
Thank you.
November. Bye,
Will do.
guys.
Thanks, guys. All right. Bye.